Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Brought to you by Junk Be Gone and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you join us today on a blustery Sunday in East Tennessee. It was going to be a blustery show until the last 12 minutes of that basketball game last night. Tennessee with the come-from-behind rally at Lexington. We'll break down the latest on the Vols basketball team and what's coming forward, and I've got news for you on that in just a second. We'll also talk plenty about the football situation, coaching search in terms of defensive coordinator and on down the line. We got a lot to talk about. Roster drain. Would Tennessee have been better off just biting the bullet and staying with Pruitt for a year? I know that sounds crazy. We'll discuss all of that coming up in today's show. First segment of our program is brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. Spring cleaning is just around the corner, and a lot of folks dread that each and every year. Make it easier on yourself. Call Junk Be Gone. They can deliver a 15-yard driveway dumpster to your house. You fill that thing up, they come and haul it away. It's simple. Or you make it even simpler than that. You call them and say, look, I need your team to come in and load this crap up. And you get something big item, they come right in, they do the social distancing, the mask, the whole new, they pick it up, they load it, they take it away. I use these guys every single year. Junk Be Gone, junkbegone.biz. They also can take care of your company's needs, right on down to paper shredding. They do it all. Good, local, family-owned business, Junk Be Gone. All right, let's welcome in the first wave of panelists we have today. Former Division I basketball player and former Vol assistant coach Mark Pankratz back with us. Mark, going to have to be thinking on the fly today. Appreciate that. We planned for one thing, and now we're going to change it. David Ubben from The Athletic is right there in the center square. And down there, Chuck Cavallera, circle gets the square, as they used to say. Chuck Cavallera is a longtime media member here in East Tennessee. Thank you for joining us, Chuck. All right, here's what I've been hinting at. Tennessee announced just moments ago that they will be changing their schedule due to COVID issues at Florida and Texas A&M. Their games have been delayed, which means Tennessee and Georgia are going to be pushed together since that's who is going to be playing, Florida and Texas A&M. So on Wednesday night, instead of Florida visiting Thompson-Boling Arena, it will be Georgia coming to town. So it's a good thing we didn't have a third segment of the show based on what to look for in the Florida game. But anyway, Tennessee will be playing Georgia on Wednesday. All right, let's talk about last night. It was the perfect embodiment of what this Tennessee basketball team has looked like in recent weeks. The yo-yo Vols, who were down 58-48 with 12 to play, hadn't looked good all night. Then they go on a 34-13 run, win at 82-71 at Rupp. It's the second year in a row that they've won at Rupp. That's the first time Tennessee has ever won two in a row back-to-back at Rupp Arena in back-to-back years. It's the first time they have won back-to-back in Lexington since the Ernie and Bernie years when it was Memorial Coliseum one year and then the first year of Rupp. As I said, they came back from double digits last year up there. Rick Barnes now 8-5 versus Kentucky, which... Think about that. As somebody who grew up around here and grew up in Middlesboro, Kentucky for a good part of it, the idea of Tennessee ever handling Kentucky in basketball like that is just beyond me. 8-5 against Kentucky and Calipari. He's won 3 times at Rupp now. No other Tennessee coach has ever won up there more than once. And to put it in perspective, Barnes has beaten Kentucky 8 times since 2016. The previous 8 wins versus Kentucky took from 2013 to 1999.
Wow.
Just an amazing run of what Rick Barnes has done against Kentucky. I know it drives Kentucky fans crazy, and I know Tennessee fans are loving it. Guys, where do you start with last night's game?
Well, you can't start anywhere other than the freshmen. I mean, with Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson having 50 points between them. And it wasn't just the points. It was how they scored. Their tenacious ability to attack the rim, to play defense with that power, that aggression. It was the game changer. They took that basketball game over and were the difference on both ends of the floor, time and time again. Even times where they did not finish at the rim, they were attacking that rim and letting everybody know that we're going to either win or lose this thing based off of us being aggressive and attacking. And they did that, and they were able to pull out that win.
Yeah, that was huge. I think you saw that. You know, there was a moment in the second half when Keon Johnson went over for that dunk and got swatted. And usually you'd see a guy talk trash. You'd see a guy let him know he just blocked him. you could tell he knew he's coming again, like in the next possession. And that was a big moment because it's a big moment for Kentucky's defense, but they knew they were still on their heels, and they kept attacking, and so many little layups, so many little 4-footers that are just easy buckets. And when you can't stay in front of a guy, when they're just getting by you all day, it's a long night defensively, and you could see it in Kentucky's team. They were demoralized, so they couldn't stay in front of guys, and those two guys got a bunch of easy buckets.
And we had talked, Tennessee just had to get more out of the transition game. You turn your athletes loose, you let them go, and with the continuing struggles of John Fulkerson, we talked about last year. He had 27 points there last year, and led that huge comeback. And did he even score last night? That's a story in itself.
Only played 10 minutes, got in foul trouble early, as did basically the entire Tennessee team.
I had
the
2 fouls
officiating
last
was going to be on
night.
the. I don't usually bring officiating into the show because people always complain about it on both sides.
Right.
It was going to be in today's show.
It's rough.
That
I
first
thought
half
it
was
was
unbelievable.
interesting. Rick Barnes said after the game that he wants to run. He wants to push it, but he doesn't feel like that some of the players have been in game shape because of the whole COVID thing. He felt like Springer and Johnson were at least a month and a half behind what they normally would have been. But, boy, if you turn them loose, they can play.
Well, that's the question. Was this a coming out party? Is this more of what you're going to see moving forward? I mean, as you say, Johnson, 27 points, 9 of 16 shooting. Springer, 23 points, 9 of 17 shooting. Is this more of what you're going to see moving forward? Is Barnes really ready to do this, and does he want to do this? Or is it going to go back to, all right, this team has to work inside out through Fulkerson. Where does this team go next?
Well, it's definitely not his MO. He's been a guy that's always had big guys. But you look at this basketball team, we've talked about the lack of identity, the lack of leadership, not because of seniors. You got 2 of those in Pons and Fulkerson. But when the game comes, push or shove, who are you going to go through? And that was, to me last night, they knew that this was a big-time game. It was at Kentucky. Kids were playing hard. That foul trouble early on, which led to a lot of free throws for Kentucky, which led to their lead, was just guys that had not learned how to win, that were playing really hard. You're getting over-the-back fouls. You're getting dumb reach fouls that put Kentucky on the foul line early. And so back to your question around who do they play through, I think it was shown last night that we are better in space, and we'll talk about this later in the diagram segment of we're better in space. We're better when we've got guys that can shoot the basketball. If you've got Pons and Fulkerson on the court at the same time, you've got 2 guys that aren't very good at scoring 15 feet it out. The basketball game in college basketball and NBA has changed to where it's all spread out. Who has Tennessee lost against? It's teams that have spread you out and drive you. And if you help, they kick it to a shooter. They may have one big guy that can shoot from 15 feet and in, but they got 4 shooters around. And last night when you saw that difference, you saw that run, you saw Josiah be on the court, who made an impact on the defensive end.
His defense was great, yeah.
But you had Josiah, you had Springer, you had Keon, you had Bailey in it a lot, and you had Pons. That's a small lineup, and so I think you are going to see some changing of the guard and trying to spread it out some more.
Let me ask you 2 down here very quickly. Are we putting too much stock in it? Now, look, I don't want to take away. As I went through the list, it is rare for anybody to go into Kentucky and do what Tennessee's done over these last few years. However, that's a 5-12 basketball team now. They're talented, but they don't play well together. That's a team that has lost at home to a lot of people this year. Are we putting too much emphasis on, okay, now the freshmen are here, that's what we're going to see from the rest of the way? Are you concerned that it's basketball, that's a one-game blip?
Well, I think you can see it sometimes. If you're expecting those 2 freshmen to put up 50 every single night, you're going to be disappointed. But can one of them go for 20 in every game, 2 out of 3 games? Probably. I think when you start to figure that out, you can do that, especially in a place like Rupp. Even though it's not a great Kentucky team, you kind of start feeling yourself a little bit. It's definitely possible. Again, we might see that a few more times this year where those 2 guys go off like that. But, certainly some potential, but just not expecting that.
Chuck, your hands on the money. The money's on the table. Are you going to slide it across or not?
A little. Well, here's the thing. Kentucky imploded again. They're 5-12. But at some point, you think a team like that, something's going to click in and they're going to finish a game. And I'm just glad it wasn't last night against Tennessee.
Well, offensively, what does Fulkerson do really well? A couple things. What does he do really well? What are a couple things that Pons do really well? Hard to come up with a couple things for both those guys. Keon, Springer, you can name a couple things.
Yeah.
They'll attack the rim. They can finish at mid-range. They'll get to the free throw line. Jaden Springer will knock down threes. They'll make the extra pass. Fulkerson, good player, has had a great career, but as far as running an offense through to be able to make decisions, score at different levels, I think those two guys, Jaden and Keon, moving forward, give you the best chance to win because they're harder to guard and harder to plan for.
And they also help you on the defensive end too.
All right, we got to catch a break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at what Tennessee has accomplished so far. Let's take stock of this team, where it is. Are we looking at it too harshly? Are we looking at it about right, not harshly enough? We'll look at the differences between the wins for Tennessee and the losses for Tennessee, what stands out, if anything. And then a little later, Mark's going to go to the diagram board and he'll break down some of the things we saw offensively from Tennessee last night. Come on back on the Sports Source.